Hello there guys, how are we doing? Welcome back to my channel, Beamy Reactions. My name's Beamy, thank you for watching. Now today guys, I saw the title of this video pop up on Chat History's plethora of videos, the huge catalogue of videos, and I absolutely had to share it with you because it sounds morbidly hilarious. So this video is completely stupid historical trends that got people killed. So, I feel like I'm cheating because I know it's going to pop up in this video because I've already seen it in a thumbnail. So instantly, the first thing that jumps to mind is the awful lead makeup, lead-based makeup, which sometimes contained mercury as well, which was used by English aristocracy. You know, there's powdered wigs and white, stupid-looking faces, and they look daft, didn't they? They're used by the geishas as well. It's that awful makeup that someone somewhere, probably Queen Elizabeth I, decided looks super hot. So everyone's going to copy, but it was so toxic and poisonous to their skin. It caused blemishes and sagging, like it made their skin look a little bit like a tinge of grey, dead basically. So they put on more in thicker layers. And I think it kills you in like a multitude of different ways, but none of which sound like anything you want to be doing. I understand, obviously, they didn't know, or they didn't connect the dots. They didn't know that, you know, this horrible looking, cracking makeup was what was ultimately killing many, many people. I understand that they didn't know that. However, it didn't even look good. It doesn't look great, does it? Anyway, let's get on with the video. I've already done an awful lot of talking. Guys, if you're enjoying these reactions and mindless chitter chatter, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. If you're interested, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account. That link is over here. And if you would like to help support my channel any further, I have a Patreon account. And if you want to check that out at all, that link is in the description just below there. Come on, let's have all the stupid trends. I want to see some fashion trends outside of makeup, like some, you know, really, really, the corsets. Corsets are like bustiers that Victorians were known for wearing, and you couldn't breathe in. Yeah, I want to see things like this.
Stupid deadly trends in history.
Okay. Pole sitting. I don't think I've heard of this
social
one.
trends are a thing. Whether it's collecting the latest useless collectible or partaking in the how many dehydrated baby carrots can you shove into your butthole challenge, there's no avenue that humanity won't venture in order to fulfill our lives with something to ooh and ah at.
No, I'm going to ask it. Was that really a thing? Ever? Is people have thrill issues.
And it's been that way since the dawn of man. Take, for instance, flagpole sitting. It's exactly as boring as it sounds, but for the dopamine-deprived people of yore, this was the bee's knees. The practice of posteriors perpetually planted on pillars and poles was prevalent as far back as the 5th century. Back then, a bunch of Christian dudes called stylites would make it their mission to live atop tall pillars, with the term stylites deriving from the Greek stylos, quite literally meaning pillar or column. Now, this wasn't for social entertainment, but rather for the salvation of their soul. Perhaps history's most well-known stylite was Simeon the Stylite. He believed that by living all uncomfy and uncozy atop his tall little pillar palace in Syria, with minimal sustenance and constant exposure to the elements, he would essentially cast away his mortal self. All that remains would be his immortal soul, ready for a first-class ticket to the heavens beyond.
What is it with older religions and just believing in chastising and punishing themselves? I don't think it's necessary.
Because I guess God loves watching his creations mercilessly punish themselves for good boy points. According to some historical sources, Simeon remained perched on his pillar for as long as 42 years until his death. A real commitment to the bit. Fast forward tens of billions of seconds into the future, and the practice of pole sitting made a comeback in the 1920s and 30s in the United States. Only this time, it was to draw a crowd.
That's
like any trend, it all began with one person. This person, semi-professional stuntman Alvin Kelly. Reportedly the result of a friendly dare, Kelly's first publicized climb was in 1924, where he sat for several hours outside a department store in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Excuse me, what's with that guy up there? buy a coat, buy some slacks, don't forget to buy a hat. He's no one. Welcome to the story. Enjoy yourself.
Oh, so he's not advertising the shop.
Hey, come on, get down from there. No, I'm not gonna ask again. Ooh, what are you gonna do? Come up here and make me? Yeah,
Tip
that's
the
what I
pole
thought.
over.
Hey, guess what? What? Kelly's
Oh, you
successful
dirty
marketing
bugger.
campaign actually bloomed into a career. He would use his questionable talent to promote things like movie premieres or sporting events, but eventually became the main spectacle himself, touring 28 cities across the country where people actually bought tickets to watch dudes sit atop a pole for hours on end. Do a flip. His personal best.
Okay, I understand it being turned into like some kind of commercialized advertising type thing, sure. Why on earth would you spend money to go and watch someone do that? Crazy.
Was a cheek-numbing 49 days in Atlantic City, New Jersey. All of this fame and attention paved the way for others to take up the trend, from amateur backyard enthusiasts like little Lenny here to full-time professional pole sitters like your mom. But of course, nothing lasts forever. The fad began dying out when several people started to die off thanks to that great big depression that happened in the 1930s. It's hard to laugh at someone struggling and starving on a pole 200 feet in the air when you're struggling and starving at ground level. By its very nature, the stunt of pole sitting was extremely dangerous. You had to balance yourself properly through sleep deprivation, harsh weather, and lack of nutrition. One slip or overcorrection was enough to convert all of your potential energy into kinetic energy as you gave onlookers a direct demonstration of gravitational acceleration. Well, there you go.
Did that happen?
There was at least one verifiable death directly related to the act. Granted, this was decades later in the 1970s. The unlucky fella who took the fall was 72-year-old professional poler Richard Blandy. Dear old Dick spent a record-breaking 125 days atop a pole in Stockholm, Sweden just 9 years prior, surviving mostly on whiskey and 3 packs of cigarettes a day, or as I like to call it, the stepdad special. Then
I don't think drinking whiskey is going to help you stay on top of that pole.
things hit a wall for Richard, or in this case, the ground. In 1974, while finishing up a 4-day promotional sitting at Dixie Square Mall in Harvey, Illinois, a trailer accidentally reversed into his tower, causing it to collapse and Richard to plummet to his death. Remember, the higher the heights you reach, the longer the fall from the top.
Or something like that. Venetian
Despite the fancy-sounding name, you're probably familiar with this one. Venetian ceruse was a specific type of cosmetic concoction used throughout the 16th century in Europe. The main purpose of this product was to lighten the complexion of many a fine fella or fellette. It also served to cover up blemishes and give a refined, flawless look. Since most of my guys are drawn as white as a cheese and mayonnaise sandwich, we need to travel back in time.
So I know this one, maybe it was a different material or maybe something different, but like toxic makeup like this isn't just like a medieval thing. I'm sure the geishas used it as well. But this particular makeup, I know the idea was to get a flawless complexion, but it cracked and everything, didn't it? It would have made you look like something from a horror film.
Believe it or not, the desire to appear pale as paste actually stretches as far back as 2000 BC with the ancient Egyptians. Well, the rich ones anyway. You see, getting all tanned and toned under the hot sun all day was a sign that you were a filthy, hard-working poor. Not wanting to look like they partook in any labor, Egyptian nobles slapped lead-based powder all over their faces to get that DoorDash enthusiast look. You know, the look of royalty. The
look of royalty that ages your skin and turns your face grey, sags, gives you blemishes. Oh yes, that's royal.
A paler complexion traveled across the Mediterranean into ancient Greek territory where, again, upper-class folks took it upon themselves to whiten their skin and cover up any skin imperfections. The trend continued on to influence ancient Rome and even ancient China, all of which stuck to the lead-based recipe. Jump into the futuristic years of the 16th century, and the beauty standard still remained, and that's about the time that Venetian ceruse entered the fray.
And, made very popular by Elizabeth I.
Perhaps one of the most notable historical figures that dabbled in the dust was Queen Elizabeth I of England. The exact cause of her death is debated, but historians speculate her kicking of the royal bucket to have been a severe blood infection brought on by heavy use of her lead-based Venetian ceruse makeup.
And if I remember reading, wasn't there an infection which kind of originated from an abscess, a dental abscess? But yes, obviously, the heavy use of this toxic, horrible lead makeup is going to exacerbate an awful lot. I mean, she was like 70 when she died. It was pretty good going for a Tudor. But yeah, I think if I remember my history lessons as well, when she was younger, she had smallpox. She did have like quite a lot of scar-poxed skin, and that would have been another thing that she probably wanted to conceal and then maybe cover her hands and things like that.
She not only used the powder to minimize any melanistic manifestations, but to cover up severe scarring from her smallpox.
There we go.
It also was just the fashion at the time. If you take a look at a lot of Renaissance paintings from the era, you're gonna see a lot of disturbingly white faces. It was the epitome of beauty. I mean, nowadays some people obsess over looking like dumbass balloon animals, so it's not all that outlandish.
Oh, how the tables have turned. We've come full circle. Yes, the looking like a Whatsit is or has been fashionable around here.
The most well-documented death directly from Venetian ceruse use was debatably beautiful babe Countess Maria Coventry. Her heavy use of the stuff caused her own skin to crack and peel, forming painful open sores that she just covered up with more makeup. Like a Venetian mask. She bit the dust in 1760 at the age of just 27. So what exactly was it made of and why was it so toxic?
Mercury?
Well, first of all, it's lead. That's not good for you, especially not being plastered onto your skin for hours or days on end. But lead isn't even white, I hear you screaming to your screen. But white lead is.
Yeah.
This is white lead. See how white it is? Pretty freaking white. This is hydroceracite, a lead salt compound also called lead carbonate hydroxide. It's naturally occurring, usually found alongside the pure lead deposits. So some Venetian fellas in Venice decided to mine the stuff, mash it up, and mix it with water and vinegar to create a paste. It was found to—
Oh, you know it was a British person that came up with that. We love our vinegar. Can you imagine being an aristocrat and roaming around with one of those stupid, big, powdered, big, puffy wigs and a white face stinking of vinegar? Sexy.
Have incredible drying properties, so it was actually first used in the 16th century as a medical product, being applied to icky, sticky, oozing open sores and wounds to suck up the juices. But then I guess someone got a little experimental and realized it could be a great cosmetic as well.
Would you frig me? I'd frig me.
The problem, though—
Yeah, I want to know the first person who decided to slap that on their face. What was going on? I want to be a fly on the wall.
With long-term lead exposure is that it sort of leaches through the skin and into your blood, causing lead poisoning. And any condition with the word poisoning in it naturally doesn't have pretty side effects. According to the World Health Organization, severe lead poisoning can cause a wide variety of symptoms. None of them pleasant. You have your basic nausea and vomiting, sure, but you also have crippling headaches, memory loss, the big sad, and even high blood pressure in the short term.
The big sad.
As for the long term, we're talking reproductive issues and even permanent brain and nervous system damage. The neurological effects often led to increased aggression, hyperactivity, and the lowering of one's IQ. So in scientific conclusion, heavy lead makeup was creating a bunch of irritated, angry, infertile morons. Just like those dang—
insert political party here.
Am I right?
I thought that was going to be something to do with the Tudors. That Tudor had already happened at this point.
Humans have been nodding their noggins and tapping their toes ever since first discovering a beat. And the act of rocking out usually lasts for several songs, which is normal, but how would you feel about dancing for days on end? Well, it happened.
No.
Dance marathons were all the rage back in the 1920s in the United States, but Americans actually have the British to thank for that. In February of 1923, professional dance couple Ollie and Edgar took it upon themselves to cut a British rug for 7 hours straight. This was something that, historically speaking, had never really been done before, and it caught some national attention.
Oh, I want to know what they were dancing. Was it the Charleston?
But in true American fashion, the British were about to be one-upped. Alma Cummings, a New York dance instructor who
normally copy
became
you.
fascinated with the idea of testing human limits while revolutionizing human expression, set a blistering 27-hour dance record just 12 days after the Brits tried to be good at something.
Gosh, she smashed that record, didn't she?
And look at that, she put holes in her soles, for God's sake. Something was happening within the United States in the 1920s. If you recall, the flagpole sitting craze was also hitting its stride at this point in time. Americans became obsessed with record-breaking feats of human physical endurance. So publicity stunts became the norm as normal humans tried pulling off superhuman endeavors. I'm gonna lift this car. So after Alma busted her move, the idea of endurance dancing began to take off. Within the next few weeks, her record had been broken 9 times across the country, so everyone was getting into the swing of things. It became a public spectacle, with promoters hosting dancing marathons as a form of entertainment.
Well, if there's a cash prize, you know, given the time era, of course you're going to do it. And naturally for attention.
Pay a 25-cent fee, and you could just watch people shimmy, shimmy, shimmy to the break of dawn. Several dawns, actually. You see, it didn't take long for the craze to drop a ranked mode. Competitive dancing marathons saw couples boogieing for days on end to get a chance at solid cash prizes. Those prizes became even more valuable once the world entered the Great Depression in the 1930s.
That's what I was thinking.
In a collapsed economy, these marathons were seen not only as a form of entertainment for the now destitute masses,
What an income.
but a means of survival. That's because participants were properly fed and sheltered in exchange for their performance, all while still having that chance at a grand prize.
Well, I suppose the venue gets their name splashed about the place. They're going to sell an awful lot of tickets, an awful lot of drinks to everyone watching. Win-win.
These prizes could range from a couple hundred to a couple $1,000. Now, considering that the median income in the 1930s was roughly $1,000 a year, this was a big deal. So dancing devolved from entertainment to desperation. Competitors were allowed only short breaks in between numbers to catch their breaths, but they were still required to move and groove in some form, be it a tap of the foot or a nod of the head. Couples that stayed still for too long were actually prodded with sticks or splashed with water to get them back on their feet again, lest they be disqualified and thrown to the streets. The most famous dance champions of the age were handsome stud muffin Callum de Villiers and beautiful babe Vani Kuczynski. So take a guess. How long do you think that their record-breaking dance lasted for?
Oh, we've got multiple choice. Okay. Oh, right. I think, well, you normally go straight down the middle, don't you? It's not going to be 157 days. That's ridiculous. No one could actually do that. But even 99 days? You couldn't do that, could you? That's 3 months. That's more than 3 months. I'm going to say 69 days because I don't even think you could dance non-stop for 69 days. Okay.
Time's up. The answer was a heel-evaporating 157 consecutive days.
No, that's the exact answer I thought it couldn't possibly be. How? You would literally die from exhaustion on your feet. Like right there in the dance floor.
Over 5 months of throwing down on the dance floor. Their prize, $1,000. Almost $25,000 in today's money.
Shapes.
To no surprise, these endurance events were not without consequence. Like I said, people fully exhausted themselves to the point of collapse.
Yep.
Staying in the contest meant that you had food, water, and shelter for as long as you kept shaking that thing. Unfortunately, this resulted in a few reported deaths across the nation, one of the first being 27-year-old Homer Morehouse. No, not this guy. What, you want to see an actual picture of a dude who danced himself to death? You sicken me. Just an
No, but you like to put a face to the name, don't you?
amateur dancer, Homer had reportedly been throwing it back for 87 hours straight, suffering from malnutrition and extreme sleep deprivation. He stumbled to a chair to take a break and fell over dead. News of these deaths caused immediate nationwide banning of dance marathons when they realized that, albeit voluntary human torture, isn't all that humane. But when promoters were raking in tens of thousands of dollars per event, stacks of cold hard cash outweighed the stacks of cold hard bodies.
Doesn't it always? Oh, I know this one. Foot binding. It's awful. Okay, the dance marathon is absolutely shocking. I don't. How do you stay on your feet for that length of time, for that many days? 157. You like to say that you would get a Charlie horse or cramp down your legs. It's putting it mildly, isn't it? I can't. I mean, I can't dance anyway. I don't claim otherwise. But I can't even dance for like half an hour.
Hold on to your
this is
piggies, because
horrible.
this one's gonna cause some toes to curl. As a warning, there will be some gross feet pics somewhere in this section. Now, if you'll forgive
Feminine
my
little
attempt at
feet.
Chinese pronunciation, we'll get right into it. The practice of foot binding, or Chansu, dates all the way back to the Imperial China days, with scholars failing to fully agree on any one origin story. Some claim the practice to have existed in the 6th century, but most point towards the 10th century under the Tang Dynasty. It is believed that a concubine of unsurpassed beauty was the first to bind her feet, though of course, not by choice. Lumpy Dumpling Emperor Li Yu commanded the aforementioned concubine Yao Nyang to wrap her feet in white silk to resemble the crescent moon. She then performed a fancy dance atop a golden lotus statue. The emperor stood in awe at the grace and elegance of the woman's dance, so naturally other women of status wanted to imitate it. Women would force their feet into unnatural positions with the goal of creating what were later referred to as lotus feet. You know, like the flower.
Oh, I thought he was going to say like crescent moons. I thought the concept of binding feet was because the idea of women having very small feet was feminine. I don't know where people come up with these things.
Small, delicate, and beautiful.
Yeah.
The teeny tiny tootsies were reportedly highly desirable,
so
as
weird.
Chinese men thought that this shit was undeniably sexy.
So hot.
Now, some historians believe that the real reason was a bit more selfish.
Oh,
See,
okay.
this is what a real lotus foot looks like underneath the shoe. Scrumptious, right?
So the idea of it is to actually misshape the sole. I thought it was just to keep them small. Ew, it looks actually worse. It looks like a claw, like a bird foot. Chicken foot. Ew.
Now imagine trying to walk around on those things all
Oh.
day. The reality of it was that walking on permanently disfigured feet meant excruciating pain.
Yeah.
This resulted in women walking very daintily and slow,
On their
if at all.
tiptoes.
It has been suggested that the act of binding, while convincing women that it was to attract suitable partners, was actually a form of control, with men limiting the mobility of their wives. This would, in a sense, bind them to their homes just as their feet were bound to their shoes. This forced these women
Tales all
into
the time.
sedentary, boring lives with nothing more to do than menial labor such as weaving and tapestry to help with the household income. Alright, but just how crunched in were them things, you may be asking yourself?
Crunched.
And the answer is pretty friggin' crunched.
Oh.
Ideally, the foot was to be no longer than 4 inches or 10 centimeters in length.
4 inches. 10 centimeters. That's horrible. I thought I had little feet. No, when they're twice as that, maybe not twice the size, but a lot bigger than 10 centimeters. Ugh.
Ironically, the whole process was no small feat. Over the course of several months or even years, the toes would be repeatedly broken and tightly tucked under the sole, with the entire foot
Oh,
folded downward
no.
to achieve the desired effect. Unfortunately, it's a sad reality that innumerable Chinese women faced across the centuries. Well, no, actually, it wasn't just grown women, but young girls too.
girls.
I'm talking as young as just 4 or 5 years old. Gotta fold and mold them feet while they're still growing. You ever go on the Living with the Land ride at Disney's Epcot and see the neat Mickey-shaped pumpkins growing? It's the same principle, but with human feet. The binding of youthful feet was not only practical from a physical standpoint, but a disciplinary one as well. It trained young girls to realize that life is pain, as well as the importance of abiding by societal rules and customs.
They're 4. All they want to do is run around and play. Oh gosh, this is so much more horrible than I thought it was.
This practice persisted from the 10th century all the way up to the 19th century. By then, it's estimated that nearly
they still
half
did
of
it quite
all
recently.
Chinese women had their feet bound to some degree. If it wasn't obvious, all of that cracking and crunching of the feet didn't exactly come with health benefits. The forced deformation commonly resulted in ulcerations, nasty sores resulting from the cracking open of skin, which were very difficult to treat properly. These led to deadly bacterial infections and gangrene, sometimes requiring the full amputation of the affected foot. Refuse to cut off one foot and you can end up 6 underground. Foot binding started to fall out of favor towards the beginning of the 20th century. By this time, mass-produced textiles began taking over, leaving the perpetually working from home women to be out of a job. So they finally put their foot down. After exhaustive women's rights campaigns, the Chinese government took a step in the right direction by formally banning binding in 1949.
Well, that's even better that it's been banned. It's awful. Even sitting here calling it oppressive is just an understatement. It doesn't even cover how horrible this is.
Now, when you've got something that's beyond repair, do you ever just make the decision to break it a bit more to give it that sense of finality? Maybe just hucking a busted light bulb into a garbage can to hear a satisfying shatter?
Sure.
I have a deep garbage can. Oh gosh damn it, they did the same thing to full-size locomotives back in the day. Yep, if you had yourself a free afternoon and some spare change, you could waddle your britches on down to an isolated part of the plains to witness yourself a genuine high-speed train crash.
Why would you want to watch
Because
that?
it looked cool. Come on, I know that when you cruise on down the freeway and notice a wreck on the side of the road, you're gonna be whipping your big dumb head around to see the extent of the damage. We all do.
Yeah, we all do, but it's kind of like that morbid curiosity, like, oh my gosh. Watching train crashes just sound like a massive waste of money. Not the act of watching them, like the act of actually doing that for people to watch. There's better things to spend your money on.
Do it. That's why we have traffic. But that curiosity
Yes,
and
oh my
wonder is
gosh,
what
it
drew
does.
crowds of tens of thousands of spectators throughout the late 1800s and early 1900s. The premise was simple. Beginning in 1895, railroad organizers figured out a way to profit off of decommissioning their equipment. Train engines deemed obsolete either by being outdated or having otherwise unrepairable mechanical issues were
Right.
placed on a long stretch of track facing each other. Onboard engineers would then set the locomotives full steam ahead before abandoning ship,
Step on the gas.
allowing them to become a physical demonstration of physics. Spectators happily tossed a few of their hard-earned bucks to witness such a staged catastrophe.
This is what I'm saying is the waste of money. Come on, guys, there's much better things to do with your money. No one is that wealthy. Couldn't they upcycle the materials from the trains? No.
They were about as excited as a Second Amendment enthusiast experiencing his first home invasion. The problem, though, is that
not
public
laughing.
safety measures at the time weren't much more than just standing back a ways while the trains did their thing. Nowadays, it's common for crowds to gather at scheduled demolition sites to watch tall buildings no longer be tall.
Really?
But even at a bare minimum, safety nets are placed in front of the crowds to catch any rogue debris. Think about it. Even a small stone zooming on through at hundreds of miles an hour can mean instant death.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been a welcomed consideration in 1896. Just north of Waco, Texas, was the now infamous Crash at Crush, a staged train wreck that was more than what the crowd had bargained for. The planned crash was to occur at the town of Crush. Crash at Crush. Make sense now? The temporary
Crush.
town was built specifically for the event, with an expected crowd of 20,000 Texans.
Whoa.
But thanks to effective advertising, 40,000 showed up, eagerly awaiting to see themselves a tasty train wreck. Now, this should have been an omen that things weren't going to go as planned, but double the crowd meant double the doubloons and the pantaloons, so
course it
the
did.
event stuck to schedule. The two trains were put in place and sent on their way, topping out speeds at 50 miles an hour. The steam engines collided, as expected, but upon impact, the boilers violently exploded. Not as expected. The explosion launched shrapnel in every direction, which naturally included where the crowd was standing. Well, butter my buns and call me a biscuit. I don't think that was supposed to happen. You know what? I think you're right. In addition to dozens of Southern fellas sustaining some bumps and bruises from flying hunks of metal, at least 2 Texans unfortunately yeed their last haw. But surprisingly, the crowd didn't flee. Instead, they ran towards the wreckage to assess the damage and grab themselves a souvenir from the pile of twisted metal.
That's dark.
After all, they did pay to see a wreck, so they were going to get their money's worth. Despite the widespread report of the tragedy, the public didn't seem to care. In fact, these stunts only got more and more popular. Events kept chugging along well into the 1930s when the trend finally crashed and burned.
Now, that one seems well, no, not the most bizarre, because we quite like destruction, don't we? They do make for entertainment. I'm not saying it's my cup of tea, but, you know, to each their own. Like demolition derbies and monster truck shows. I guess, you know, I understand it. Not my thing, but I've never been to one. Sure. Wow. How do you not anticipate engines exploding or furnaces exploding when you are purposefully driving two steam engines into each other? Health and safety. Health and safety first, guys. Yeah, the makeup one popped up. That's the top of my list. It just seems like the most idiotic thing that didn't just stay a trend for like even just like 100 years. It wasn't an isolated incident. Like this trend carried on for a while. Horrible. I mean, loads of places all over the earth. It's not just one place. And it wasn't like a Renaissance thing or a medieval thing. You know, it went further afield. Why? It just should never have happened. Oh my gosh. Very interesting. Very morbid. Stupid. Definitely stupid. Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. Take care of yourselves and I will see you next time. Bye bye.